2 Investigates continues our series, The Cost of Connection. Last night, we looked at the prison phone system and the toll it's taking on local families.
They say expensive phone calls make it difficult to keep in touch with loved ones behind bars. Tonight, I dig into how we stack up against other states and what, if anything, can be done to help.
It's been more than a year since the Florida Department of Corrections switched phone companies in state prisons. Many families say they've been shouldering the financial burden of that change.
Hey, Mommy.
Ava and her sisters are limited in how often they can talk to their mom because their guardians can't always afford the calls.
A lot of times you'll hear people say, like, we are doing the time with them because in so many ways, we're punished.
Punished and literally paying the price, says Amy McCourt with Florida Cares. She says the nonprofit has been repeatedly ignored in their attempts to make staying connected more affordable.
When we've brought these points, we're just basically told it's not happening. Talk to us again in 5 years.
5 years is the length of the contract with Viapath Technologies. The DOC said it would be cheaper for families because the cost per minute was cut from 14 cents to 13.5. But McCourt says now there are added taxes and fees. Also, the previous contract allowed families with the same area code as the prison to pay 4 cents per minute. That is no longer an option. The DOC refused an on-camera interview, but through email told me, since more inmates are not housed within the same town as their loved one, a majority of friends and family paid the 14-cent rate. This new rate is slightly lower and is a benefit for most. McCourt counters, saying families didn't have to live in the same city to take advantage of that cheaper rate. They could just get numbers local to their loved one's prison.
The profits that these companies make are so obscene that they can cut an awful lot out and still make a lot of money.
Journalist Paul Wright has been covering issues affecting inmates for decades for the Human Rights Defense Center. He says the DOC and phone companies take advantage of a lack of regulation and oversight.
States, especially Florida, they're not putting these contracts out to bid in the context of who can provide the best service at the lowest price to the consumer. Instead, their big thing is, gouging consumers so they can get a kickback.
The DOC gets $5 million a year from Viapath, plus perks like call monitoring and a cell phone forensic lab. The DOC told me the $5 million goes into the state's general revenue, and some goes into the Inmate Welfare Trust Fund, which goes toward inmate education, recreation, or other prison programs. But that fund has a limit of $2.5 million.
Not only are the monies that they're making off of us not reinvested in the care and the well-being and the welfare of my loved one, they're not even sometimes being spent in the prison system.
So how does Florida stack up against other states? I talked to the DOCs in both Illinois and Ohio. Illinois cut rates to less than a penny per minute. Ohio lowered its price to 2 cents a minute and uses the same company as Florida. They also don't get any of the profits. Inmates in Ohio get 3 free 10-minute phone calls each week. In Florida, inmates get 2 free 5-minute phone calls each month.
I think the communication between family and inmates is critical.
State Senator Keith Perry, chair of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Criminal and Civil Justice, says it's not the job of his committee to micromanage the prison's procurement process, but insists if something wasn't up to par, it would be investigated. He also says he has been looking into something he hopes can help cut costs.
I've just met with some technology people who have new apps that they use artificial intelligence that really can do the work of hundreds of people simultaneously. And so instead of listening to calls and trying to decide if someone's doing criminal activity over the phone, artificial intelligence can do that automatically.
Senator Perry says he also hopes that he'll be able to start looking into implementing that technology next year. And he might try to increase how much money can go into the Inmate Welfare Fund. A measure failed earlier this year to raise the cap to $7.5 million. Meanwhile, the DOC says that this new contract offers voicemail for the first time, 30-minute phone calls instead of 15, and said only at the conclusion of this contract in 2025 will they evaluate other options.